boys? We're back at it with another installment of the Rufus Rundown. I think it's been probably about 10 days since we had the last installment of the podcast. If you can't tell with my voice, been a little under the weather, so that's why I've taken some time to get back to it, make sure that I'm, kind of somewhat close to at my best for content purposes. But of course, we got some NBA stuff to get into. We got a little NHL to get into, and a little PGA to get into as well, and a little Premier League to touch upon as well. And then we're gonna start running some guests back through here. The consistency is gonna return. It's just been, as I said, that illness and stuff too, kind of hit me a little bit. So again, just trying to regenerate the consistency with what I'm doing here. But as we come to the end of May, I think we're going to be in very good hands moving forward. Of course, Rufus and the Rocks can be coming to the Brockton Rocks podcast weekly installment. I'm gonna have to get to that too, as they will be opening up this Thursday. Tune into the 4th and 8th innings of these Brockton Rocks live streams, as I'll be the sideline reporter for the Brockton Rocks for their upcoming season. Be sure to follow the show on all social medias, Rufus Rundown, all around TikTok, Twitter. The personal Twitter is LucasJ16, official Lucas J. Ferrer for the Instagram. I think that's just about it with the social medias there. And if you do enjoy the podcast, please be sure to like, subscribe, and if you're on Spotify, follow on Spotify. Again, follow on all social medias as well to stay up to date. I've been pretty consistent on Twitter as of late in terms of these NBA games. If you're a Celtics fan, you might not want to go over to the Twitter, but we're going to get into that on today's podcast. Anyways, Twitter, in terms of live game stuff, in terms of reactions, I think that Twitter has probably been the best, probably the best outlet for me in terms of in sports world too. I mean, Twitter can be a dumpster fire, but at the same time, I think it's like for readily available thoughts. I think I'll get my Snapchat up there eventually too, the Rufus Rundown Snapchat. And daily behind the scenes stuff that I'm gonna start posting on there. And I'm more to come. I think we're gonna get some college football revamp and stuff in the near future as well too. More of the gaming realm, streaming and stuff like that. So that's gonna be within the future as well. I am looking to get some new equipment and whatnot. And again, sponsors. I'm looking to run some sponsorship packages out there for the show as well. So a lot to be looking forward to with the Rufus Rundown. But I want to get into it. The Nuggets and the Lakers. And the Nuggets sweeping the Lakers to advance to their first ever NBA Finals. It was, they beat the Lakers 113-111. Nikola Jokic had a huge game with 30 points for the clinching game, the decider. I mean, he averaged a triple-double for the series. He played 45 minutes, shot just about 50% from the field, 50% from three. Had 14 rebounds, 13 assists, a steal, 3 blocks, and 30 points. I mean, that's a huge, huge night, and that's something you'd expect out of your big name player. Jokic has been unreal this entire series. I mean, watching the Nuggets play has been very, very enjoyable. I get it often when I watch the Warriors too, where I just love the way they move the basketball. There's something about this Nuggets team too, just the way they move the ball that has been so good. They've won 6 straight now in the playoffs. They have the role players too. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope had 13 in this game, but he's been very good the entire series, averaging about 15 to hit the whole series. Michael Porter Jr., the efficiency's not really there, but he does knock down some big shots. He's been passing the ball much, much better. Rebounding, he's hit or miss. But again, you look at Aaron Gordon, who's played very, very good defense. The scoring really hasn't been there, but it was last night with 22 for Aaron Gordon. Such a great, great role player for them. Bruce Brown off the bench, Jeff Green off the bench. That's a KCP. That's a guy who's been there before. He won one with the Lakers. He's been a very, very good role player. And that's the common theme between them and the Heat, too, is that the role players, it's not really the big names that always do it in the playoffs. Sometimes it's just you get what you get from the big names, and then it's the role players that fill in around them that really elevate you to that next level. And that's what happens why the Celtics are struggling, is because their big names are not showing up. And not only the Heat's big names showing up, but the role players are as well, too. That's something we're going to get into. Jamal Murray for the series, too, had a really big series. I have the stats here. Of course, Jokic with that triple-double was the most in postseason history, passing Wilt Chamberlain. Anytime you're breaking a Wilt Chamberlain record in modern day, pretty good. He averaged 27, about 28 per game, 14.5 rebounds, 11, about 12 assists per game. Of course, he's the Western Conference Finals MVP. There's no other reason why it would be anybody else. But then Jamal Murray's also played really well. But obviously, the effectiveness of Jokic has been far and above anybody else in the series. But they're 32 per game, 52% from the field, 40% from three for Jamal Murray. He's hit some big shots. He's got some Curry in him. I'm not calling him Steph Curry, but there's some of those one leg leaners and some of those threes that he's been hitting. He does have some Curry to him. I mean, personally, for me at least, just the kind of vibe there. He just kind of has that swagger that you like out of one of your leading players. And of course, we saw what he could do in the bubble year where they went to the conference finals. They lost the Lakers that year. That's the other thing worth a note. These are all the bubble teams that are back in the conference finals. So it's good to kind of look at it from a sense of, of course, it's not the same because the Heat's still going to end up advancing over the Celtics. I mean, that's clear at this point now. But it's just nice to know that bubble year really wasn't fake or phony. And I think I've even been one of the people to say, like, oh, that the bubble year doesn't really count because of how different these teams have played since then. But they really have balanced out over time. It was that really short postseason that really kind of messed with these teams. And, the Nuggets were really forgotten about this postseason. And I had mentioned it on prior shows that it was, it's almost kind of beneficial that, you're the one seed and you're being slept on. And they have been slept on this entire postseason, but until this point, I mean, they have played incredibly high level basketball. It's different than the Eastern Conference Series in the sense where I think the Lakers really overachieved a lot for these playoffs. They really punched above their weight. The Nuggets have really just kept it up as business as usual. They've really just handled business. They beat the Suns, who I think everybody had favored out there in the West. And they have just played at a high level of basketball. Of course, the Celtics aren't going to come back and beat the Heat. And I really don't see the Heat competing with the Nuggets in these finals. But, of course, Jimmy might have his way. But I see the Nuggets as the clear favorite to win the title at this point. Jokic has played like a true MVP. I think he will most definitely and very happily trade in that what could have been his third MVP for a championship ring. I think any of his teammates would agree too. Again, Malone, there's a lot to be said about this Nuggets teams and underachieving, but now the pressure is really off because no one's really expecting them to do much, even as the one seed in the West. And now you see now they're in the they're not only past the conference finals, they swept through the conference finals through the Los Angeles Lakers to their first ever NBA Finals appearance. Again, just their star players have shown up. Their role players have played well. They have hit open shots. They have shot very efficiently from the field. I think they're shooting about 41% from three. That's without the Game 4 stats in there. But like I said, I mentioned KCP and Michael Porter both about 15 per game, 14 per game from Bruce Brown. Of course, Aaron Gordon with a 22 last night, different from about the 10 per game he was averaging. But he's been playing very good defense. He's been just he's a crazy athlete, and he's really found a role there in Denver. I think the story for the Lakers too is that LeBron has mentioned retirement now. He is he's debating it. It was year 20. He had 31 in the first half. He had 40. He played all 48 minutes, 40 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists, and that's to end his year 20. I mean, for this series, LeBron's not a number one player anymore. He's not the guy that leads your team anymore. He still had about, of course, he was still playing over 40 minutes per game in this series, almost averaging a triple-double himself for this series. Again, I don't see this affecting LeBron's legacy as much as I think it affects Anthony Davis's, because Anthony Davis's stats are very skewed by that big 40-plus point Game 1. Other than that, I think that Anthony Davis has been wildly inconsistent in this series. You got a lot of production out of Austin Reeves. Rui Hachimura, I think, played very well in this series. D'Angelo Russell was inexplicably bad. The plus-minus for D'Angelo Russell was I think it's minus 50 something for the series. I think it's minus 54 because he was minus 1 last night. If he was minus 1 last night, he's minus 53 going into the game. He was plus 6 last night. So bump up to minus 47. Yeah, it moves up a little bit. But D'Angelo Russell was just very inefficient. Has always been a very, I think in these moments, very inefficient. When his shot's going down, it works for you. But the highs and lows are there because his usage rate is so high. He takes a lot of bad shots. Does not play good defense. So D'Angelo Russell being one of the big reasons why they struggled in this series. Again, the depth there, the inconsistency. Vanderbilt didn't even play in this one. You're a defensive specialist, but you're not playing that good defense. Again, you need big shots in these games. Lonnie Walker had his games. They had games here and there, everybody, but there was no consistency to be found in their depth. Again, I like the Lakers with the starting lineup with Schroeder, Reeves. I think Reeves really showed up in this series. Austin Reeves at 17 last night, 3 assists, 2 boards, almost about 50% of the field. Hit a big 3 late. That's the guy who knows his role. But again, him and Hachimura guys are going to be restricted free agents, so we're going to see how the cookie crumbles with that. Austin Reeves, I think, would look very, very, very good in a New York and a Knicks uniform. I think that's a good landing spot for Austin Reeves, depending on price. But again, this isn't a LeBron thing. LeBron, having 40 last night, close to 31 in the first half, but he's getting up there in age, man. He's getting up there in age, and this is not his team. This is a team that should be going through Anthony Davis, but it's been finding so much inconsistency in Anthony Davis' game, and that's the big thing. The big thing there is I think the offense. I mean, the way I would have done it, you've seen LeBron defending Jokic at times. I would have had LeBron, be that pass first guy, play defense on Jokic, and that be his worry. And you run your offense through AD, and you get some big shots from LeBron when you need him, and Austin Reeves when you need him. And Hachimura, they had game plans with him and getting to the rim. But, again, I just think the depth in the Nuggets is overwhelming, and just the level of play from Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. This is a Lakers team that has overachieved. I don't think the expectation was for them to even get here. It's the fact that they did. It's a lot different from the situation where when the Celtics get swept not only can the Lakers, I think, be happy with making it to the conference finals, and overachieving to that level and seeing where they're going to stand for that. They can't be happy about hearing LeBron, possibly retiring. But I don't think he's leaving. I think he would retire to just go somewhere else with Bronny. I can't see LeBron. I think LeBron's legacy is not harmed by this. Now, if he leaves for another team straight away, that's where you get into, again, the legacy harming conversation if he jumps ship again. But as it stands right now, whether he comes back or not, I think his legacy is safe and intact as the number 2 player ever. But again, that's to each their own and how you see it. Again, I don't see LeBron really retiring either, but I think he's tired at this point. I think it is, year 20. I think this is weighing on him. I think physically you've seen it a lot more. But again, the difference being with the Celtics and the Lakers here, they'll be able to be content with making it to the conference finals because it was such a tough year in which they bounced back and battled back, rebuilt the team mid-season, got all the way to the conference finals. I think overachieving in the sense to do it and beating the defending champions on the way. Even though they really weren't at their highest level this year, the Warriors. And again, it's different from the Boston Celtics in the sense where it's like I think everybody, the red carpet's been rolled out for the Celtics to go win the title, and they just didn't rise to the challenge. The Lakers made it made it a lot further than I think anybody anticipated, and that's why I don't see it really affecting much. I mean, they have a lot of work to do in the offseason, of course. But I still think any inconsistencies in the health issues from Anthony Davis have been a big thing. But I'm not sure how you proceed with that. Like I said, the 21 from AD. But again, -6 in the plus-minus. He played defensively very good. Rebounds, but again, this the health and the consistency on the offensive end that you're looking for from Anthony Davis that I didn't see enough of in this series to really hold him in a higher regard. And I think that's what it comes down to, is that LeBron's no longer the one. And he should be the one that it goes through. But his inconsistencies force LeBron's hands a lot. And that's what you saw in this series. That's what you see in this series, and that's why you see the Nuggets advancing their first ever NBA Finals. So, again, mentioned the Celtics a couple times there. Let's segue into the Boston Celtics imploding against the Heat. That was one of the most... I think... That goes down as the most miserable playoff performance that I've ever seen from a Boston sports team. Dropped the first 2 in Boston which of course everybody's like, well, they haven't really played well in Boston the whole playoffs. So, home court isn't everything. But, we need to show up in Game 3. We really need to show up in Game 3. 29 points from Gabe Vincent. The Heat win by 26. They led by as much as 33. Their effective field goal percentage was big, 61% to Boston's 52. Boston turned the ball over a lot. Jason Tatum still yet to hit a fourth quarter field goal. Jaylen Brown struggled mightily in the fourth quarter as well. Both have been missing in action for the entire series. Again, Miami shooting 57% from the field and 54% from three. And a lot of people are going to say that's coming up to luck with the 4 undrafted players. I mean, they flat out just outplayed the Celtics. It was disgusting. It was one of the worst, again, I think the worst Boston playoff performance that I've ever seen. Considering there's some bad ones amongst, winning seasons that people tend to forget about. But Mazzulla's lost them. And even had comments in the press saying that he lost the locker room. There's not an ounce of leadership on this team. This Celtics team. There is no leadership whatsoever. Tatum drops 51 in Game 7 against the Sixers, and everybody rushes to text and tell me that I was wrong, and Tatum is him, and the Celtics are winning it all. And I was like, you know what? I'm impressed. I was very impressed with the 51 from Tatum. It's the first time where I've seen that guy coming over like half court with the confidence I need to see out of my star player. Where the ball's going to the basket. It's going in. He's finding a way, or he's gonna make a play. And it just disappears in this series. He seems like the type of guy to talk his game when he's up on the scoreboard. When he's feeling confident enough, when he has this high level of confidence, he can be a great player. But when it's these tight moments where there's nothing guaranteed or nothing assured or nothing's, almost putting him up here, he shrinks. And of course, the thing is with having 2 superstars is that you would assume that when one struggles, the other one is there to pick the other one up. That is the plus of having 2 superstars, an All-NBA first teamer, Jason Tatum, and an All-NBA second teamer, Jaylen Brown. When one doesn't play well, the other one does and picks up the slack with the rest of the role players. Not the case. Both have been non-existent in this series. When you look at the game average, Jaylen Brown for the series only 16.7, so 17 points per game. He's only hit 2 threes. He's shooting 10% from 3, which is just abysmal. But again, Jason Tatum only shooting 25% from 3 in the series at 26 per game. The turnovers have been an issue. He's at 12 turnovers in the series too, with Jaylen Brown having 11. Obviously, the turnovers in this series, they've been way more. 62 turnovers for the Celtics in this series. 45 turnovers in this series for the Celtics. When you look at the Heat and their turnovers, it's 31. So the turnover differential is a big thing there. Of course, later in games, the stats tend to change. Grant Williams going to Jimmy Butler. I'm going to give some credit to Grant Williams. Grant Williams is probably the only player in the Celtics that has shown any type of heart in this series, and he's getting clowned by Jimmy Butler. Now, I would have picked my battles a little better, but hey, at least he's showing some type of fight out there. He's trying. Jesus. Tatum and Brown look uninterested. Marcus Smart has been miserable in this series. Only 9 points per game from Marcus Smart. The 7 turnover. He has not played well at all as a starting point guard. Again, the turnovers and missing open shots. If there's one thing with the Heat is that not only are they getting good looks, they're knocking down open shots. You would expect that the guys that they have, if they were going to struggle, they would struggle to miss open shots. That it's not good enough. That's what everybody would try to tell you, talent-wise, all the undrafted guys. But the Celtics, man, just missing open shots. It's been bad. Again, Miami just the effective field goal percentage and the turnover percentage is down. Only 1 offensive rebound in that game 3. But if you don't need offensive rebounds, if you're not missing, they were not missing shots. And this Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin. Jimmy it's just a man possessed in the playoffs. It's a crazy thing. Some of these things that we see in professional sports that don't make sense, but we just address them as such. Like it just exists. We don't know how to explain it, but they just happen. They exist. Jimmy Butler in the playoffs is definitely one of those things where You call it as you see it. He is a playoff demon, and that's what he's been for the Heat. And it's been a good run for South Florida because the Florida Panthers of Fort Lauderdale. Yes, they're I don't know if it's exactly Fort Lauderdale, West Lauderdale. It's not even a true Miami, the Florida Panthers, but they're out of Lauderdale, which is right next door. That's something that we will be getting into in this episode as well. But anyways, again, this has been just diabolically bad from the Celtics. I think you have to seriously consider firing Mazzulla even after giving him the extension. There has to be some serious consideration there, some serious questions asked, and considering that he's admittedly lost locker room, doesn't know how to fix it. I think he's in over his head. We've seen, I think Jimmy Butler has officially called more timeouts this year with that one celebration than Mazzulla has the entire year. The Celtics have no heart. There's no intestinal fortitude. If I'm Joe Mazzulla, you have to go in there and you have to ask Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, reach between your legs, tell me what you got, tell me what you're fine. Are you a man, or are we just kids out here? They look like children. They look like they look like that inexperienced bunch. That this is what they were in their beginning years. This is not the Celtics that I think everybody tends to know in the regular season when the pressure is not as high. The talent that this team has is undeniable. It is an undeniable talent level. They have so much depth, and there's no cohesiveness. There is no system. There's no chemistry, and there's not a single will to compete. I mean, Charles Barkley came out and said they had the toughness of a flea. They've been clowned by every major media outlet, and it is rightfully so. They deserve every little bit of it. They have not shown up in even the slightest bit. They've just out-coached, outmatched, out-hustled. There has been zero interest from the Boston Celtics in competing in this basketball series, and it's going to end in a sweep. And again, this is my victory lap time. I told you this with Jason Tatum. I've told you this with the Celtics. I said it on our preview shows, and I've said it for years, that they don't have it. They don't have the it. And maybe that it was Ime Udoka. So I think some of that it was Ime Udoka. But unfortunately, for the Celtics, he has his issues off the court, or in the team off the court, but in the team facilities would be where his issues actually preside specifically. Cheating on Nia Long, I just don't get it. I don't get it. But be that as it may, there's been the defensive changes that have been non-existent, and you see the difference in level of play from these guys. I mean, Jason Tatum was an MVP candidate at a point, and again, this makes you think of how bad the Sixers were. Now the injury weighed on them later in that series, and James Harden really sold, but the Celtics and even after losing the first two, I still saw this as an opportunity. The Celtics have a chance to continue this series. I figure that Spoelstra would outcoach Mazzulla pretty well in this series, and that would be good for at least a win. And there would be an additional for Jimmy Butler on his own. And I got those two right out of the way, but you had to respond in Game 3. They did not. It will be a sweep. Again, 29 from Gabe Vincent in that Game 3. I thought Bam Adebayo's played really well. I think everybody's played well for the Miami Heat. If you look at the box score of that game, and Tatum still not even a fourth quarter field goal, only shooting 1 of 7 from 3 in the game. Jaylen Brown 0 for 7, dealing with an injury allegedly too, which is obviously affecting him. But still, everybody's hurt at this point too. You have to find a way to contribute, and that's where your true number one superstar, if you still believe that he is so, Jason Tatum, has to step up and play at a higher level like he did against the Sixers. If JB is hurting and he can only do so many certain things, and you have to pick him up. Marcus Smart, you want to be this emotional leader. You want to be out there. You want to be rah-rah. You have to pick it up. These are guys that are not picking it up. They have fallen. They have shrunk. They have crumpled in this big moment. And it is one of the worst Boston playoff performances I've ever seen in this moment. But again, Gabe Vincent, 11 of 14, 6 of 9 from 3, 29 points. Jimmy Butler had 16, plus 24 in the plus minus. Bam, plus 30, played fantastic. It was spinning, dunking in the lane, rebounds, block, forcing turnovers. His defense was good. Strus knocked down some open shots. Caleb Martin has played incredibly well in this series. Kyle Lowry off the bench. Duncan Robinson's been getting to the rim. He's been cutting and passing while throwing lobs to Bam Adebayo. I think everybody respects Duncan Robinson's shot so much. He's been able to get to the lane. And then once he gets to the lane, it actually opens up the shot for him. It really rarely played all. He didn't really have that much of a season, and his contract was starting to look bad. But he's really come alive in the playoffs. I mean, Udonis Haslem, the only Heat player that didn't play because of how bad that fourth quarter, where the score was. Yeah, it's embarrassing. They have embarrassed. I mean, we'll get into it next with hockey as well too, which is worth noting that the Florida Panthers are up 3-0 now out of Lauderdale. Boston is giving so much life to South Florida, and then on top of that, you have the Celtics gagging the Bruins. You have the Vegas Golden Knights on the other side with Bruce Cassidy coaching them too. So it's an embarrassing postseason right now at this point of the year for Boston sports. You have the Red Sox, who are probably on pace to win 90 baseball games and miss the playoffs because of how deep the East is. You have, and that's not there, and that's not, and then that comes down to ownership and how much they want to spend too, and overachieving. But more specifically with the Celtics and Bruins right now, it's been embarrassing for Boston sports. Of course, you have everything going on in New England. You have that Vegas play, which was just absolutely horrid. How bad they've looked at times since Tom Brady left, and then you have, this lack of clutch players here. The Bruins gagging a 3-1 lead to the Panthers and firing a more hard-nosed head coach who is now about to take his team, most likely, to the Stanley Cup. And then a team that beat you being up 3-0 in the conference finals to go to the Stanley Cup. I mean, it's incredible. So I'll segue into that. I'll segue into the Florida Panthers winning 1-0 over the Carolina Hurricanes last night to take a 3-0 lead. They have been on an absolute tear this postseason now since coming back from 3-1 down against the Bruins. They've been unstoppable. Bobrovsky has stopped, I think, over 100 out of, he's only allowed one goal in the last 2 games. He had 50-plus saves consecutively. He's been so, when he's hot, he's hot. He's probably the best, one of the best in the world. Sergei Bobrovsky, which is the big part of them winning 1-0 last night. It was a goal. It was a power play goal, actually, from Sam Reinhart. Tkachuk was in there assisting. Tkachuk being American, God, he was miserable to watch in that Bruins series. But yeah, just right now for Boston, not good. You gag to Florida when you're up 3-1. This team is now about to go to a Stanley Cup final. The coach that you fired is about to go to a Stanley Cup final. You have now imploded against the Heat as to where I don't know where the future lies for your team, and you've already given the extension to this coach. You have two big time players that have not shown up big time in this series up for contract extensions. It's a tough time for Boston sports, and everybody, the high and mighty city of champions. I'm from here. Everybody likes to think that they're untouchable still because the era of Brady and David Ortiz and all these clutch moments, and now it's elevated everybody's egos to up here. So heavy lies the crown, man. It's coming down when you hold yourself to that standard and be up there and you're gonna talk that game. People are gonna bring you right back down when you start to stumble, and that's what's exactly happening with Boston right now. They're just not able to push it up to that next level on that higher stage, and they're probably pumped up a lot from the local fans. But anyways, they go up 3-0. Bobrovsky playing well, which is, what else is new? You ride a hot goaltender. Now he's really getting hot here. It's probably going to end up being a sweep. I think Vegas, I think with Dallas, might not be a sweep. I think it'll be a gentleman's, but it will be Florida and Vegas in the Stanley Cup final, which I don't know. What's a bigger slap in the face to Boston right now? The Bruins having the best regular season of all time and then blowing a 3-1 lead in the first round, or the Celtics getting swept by Miami in the conference finals? I don't know what's going to end up being the bigger slap in the face for Boston fans. And I don't know what's a bigger slap in the face for Bruins fans, in all consideration to, you said your former coach, that the players wanted out of there. I mean, that being the big thing here, right? Is that I mentioned it on the NHL preview show that, a lot. I mean, I know it's a team game, but a lot of the pressure. Where's Patrice Bergeron's leadership? A lot of the pressure is going to come down on him. Really solely leading this team now. It's not Char. It's not Tim Thomas. I mean, Patrice Bergeron really bet a lot of his legacy. All credit to him. Incredible individual player. He's done a lot of good things individually. incredibly talented player. But leadership-wise, I question it because the only kind of thing that we've seen, the only physical representation of leadership we've seen was them banding together to get Bruce Cassidy fired because Jake DeBrusk got his feelings hurt. I mean, Patrice Bergeron bet a heavy portion of his incredible legacy in Boston on the feelings of Jake DeBrusk and some of these Bruins players to get Bruce Cassidy out here. And I don't think that they lose that series or any of these. I think Bruce Cassidy can take this team to a Stanley Cup, and they probably come back and win it. You know, he gets his wages doubled with Vegas. He did not go without a job long. It looks like he made the wrong decision. I mean, a couple of these guys would have come back, but I mean, like, really, are we really gonna Jake DeBrusk? That's where we're betting this on. That's where you're betting this on, and you blow the 3-1 lead, and it's just disasters now. It's just disasters. I mean, the Celtics have shown less heart than the Bruins in that series, but they just got outclassed at the end of it. You know, it was just they again, the Bruins by the end of it too, and with late, there was at least some effort there, I think, from some of the guys. Some of the guys just played so poorly, but it wasn't look like a quitting thing. The Celtics, it's 100% like a quitting thing. I mean, they have checked out, and Boston sports are downer now. But yeah, it's gonna be Panthers Vegas. I think that's the worst scenario for Bruins fans. I was hoping it was set up to where they would play Bruce Cassidy in the Stanley Cup, to really measure it out. It looks like they would have had that opportunity as Vegas is ready to go to a Stanley Cup final. But it's gonna be against the team that you blew the 3-1 lead to. I mean, again, this is another one where it's like it almost seems like the red carpet was rolled out for another Boston team to go to another championship. It was rolled out. It was there. It was for the taking. Look at it. Look at these two. The roads traveled. Where it was going to go. And nowhere to be found will be the Boston teams. I mean, it was at this point set up for them. Maybe not the Bruins as much because there's a lot more randomness with the Stanley Cup and the NHL playoffs. But the NBA, I mean, you're playing an 8 seed. And you're getting destroyed by an 8 seed. They were minutes away from being eliminated. They lost one of the playing games. What are we doing? Again, I don't see the NBA Finals as being close. But again, that's a conversation for another day when we actually break it down. I see the Celtics going down tonight in a heap of flames, and we'll see what happens and who wants out. I wouldn't even rule out it being blown up because Tatum or Brown wanting to be gone. I mean, you see those reactions on the sideline from Jason Tatum. He was just disgusted. Well, that's what I look like when you don't have a fourth quarter field goal made in the series. You're an NBA first team player. You hit a couple free throws. We need more than 11 points in the fourth quarter in 2 games. Now in 3 because you didn't even play in the fourth quarter of the third because of how low the effort energy was for all of that game. It's been despicable. Like I said, Panthers 3-0. Vegas looking to do the same tonight against Dallas. Again, maybe Dallas grabs that. It's a gentleman's. But at this point, Boston's just getting slapped in the face. Bruce Cassidy, the Panthers, the Heat dismantling. If it's consolation, again, for Celtics fans, it's watching the Lakers get swept last night just to get swept the following by Miami. But again, I think it stings a lot less for Lakers fans just because of the fact that they've overachieved and the Celtics are historically underachieving right now. And the Bruins historically underachieved. I think the expectations were different in these perspectives and that there was championship expectations as opposed to other teams that were like, oh, wow, like we actually might be able to do this now. And I kind of see that as the same, with Denver and Miami. Even though they weren't officially underdogs in the series, they took that underdog title, and now they're going to run it to the finals. Again, Panthers should be. I mean, Lauderdale, viewing-wise, it's going to be Vegas and Lauderdale. It's going to be Lauderdale, Miami-Dade County, Florida, in hockey versus Vegas. Now, Vegas has some very good fans. I don't know what the Panthers fans are like, but I remember when I did a spring break to Fort Lauderdale, they actually had playoff games going on the last time I was down a couple years ago. Was something I looked into. But again, that market, again, and it's going to be Denver, Miami. So, again, the whole Here's what I'm trying to get at. What am I trying to segue into? There's a lot of people that like to say that it's rigged or something. Yeah, no, it's not rigged. Why would they rig all the smaller markets to go? Maybe not the NHL as much. That's clearly not rigged. But the NBA, like, it's rigged. Celtics, Lakers rigged. Yeah, no. Those conversations are done now. We don't have to have those. That's very nice, at least. That's comforts, no. Because why would you rig this smaller market? Why would you rig a smaller market to go to the... Would you want the Lakers, Celtics? If you're going to rig it, you would rig it for the Lakers, Celtics. You would rig it for the bigger market. They did not do that. So it's not rigged. Yeah, there's big slaps in the face for the Boston sports community. Some of the worst performances that I've seen in some times in world sports. But hey, anyways, we get some cool news. Well, then again, if you're an LIV fan, I guess. But we have the Brooks Koepka winning the PGA Championship, which was really neat, I think, because Brooks has been one of the players that are open about his struggles with mental health in the game. And as a professional athlete, you see this big athletic dude, good-looking wife, going to have his kid, has had a lot of success, but has also had his share of struggles since the 4 majors that he's won, 2 of them being PGA Championships. He even admitted to choking at the Masters. I'm not calling the guy a choker. The guy's got 4 major championships. He ain't a choker. He's 5 major championships now. But, in the ESPN article, I pulled a quote. Even Koepka, one of the most confident golfers in the world, acknowledged that this week that he choked while trying to win his first green jacket. He said, "I've always learned more from the 4 times I finished second than I guess the 5 times I've won now." Koepka said, "I think failure is how you learn. You get better from it. You realize what mistakes you've made. Each time I've made an adjustment. It's more a mentality thing than anything. It's not really a golf swing or anything like that. You're going to play how you play, but mentally you can kind of figure things out. And I'm always trying to get better. Just trying to find different little edge just to poke and try inside my head." And I think that kind of like piggybacks with the Giannis stuff. There's no failure, and you're learning your lessons. And throughout his career, obviously, he's had some medicine, take some lessons to learn, and he's dealt with a lot of stuff physically. But it was really cool to see him win that PGA Championship because of how open he's been about the mental health struggles and the self-doubt. Because I'm sure all of us do it. All of us are human. They're human too. They struggle with it. And being open and honest with it is very cool. And then being able to see him have success following that is very cool too. He's not using it like a crutch. Oh, feel bad for me. It's, hey, this is what I went through, but this is what I also accomplished. And I think it's a really, really cool story to see Brooks Koepka go out there and win another major title. And I think the LIV thing is good for the sport too, because you would think that it was like, oh, that's going to ruin these guys' career. They're going to play a different way. He can still go out and compete for a major championship. Really happy for Brooks, like I said, because of what he's had to overcome. 3rd PGA championship for his career, 5th major. Super, super talented guy. Again, his mentality was always unique. Then kind of falling off with the confidence, but now being able to regain it. I wouldn't mind seeing Hovland win it either. Scotty Scheffler was up there. There's just some other guys that competed at that level. And you have the Michael Block story, which, of course, the club pro, who dunked a hole-in-one. Of course, he hit a shank turn around, too, like one of us. But he dunked a hole-in-one. Was shooting even all week and ends up now he has the exemption next year for the PGA Championship. And he's been invited to the RBC Canadian Open and the Charles Schwab Challenge. So now there all these exemptions and stuff are coming for him. I think he made $288,000. He makes $150 per hour per session that he has at his home course out in San Diego, which, by the way, went bananas when he dunked a hole-in-one. I mean, hitting a hole-in-one is one thing. I feel like it's even more uncommon to just straight up dunk it in the hole. Maybe I'm wrong there. But I would expect to hit the green and for it to run in, not just straight up dunk it. That's got to be even more difficult and more miraculous. And he did it anyways. Incredible scenes. Everybody's happy for him, rooting for him. I mean, the Club Pro thing that they do is super, super cool. The Club Pro Championship. And again, it's a super cool story. And we're going to continue to see more of Michael Block, maybe LIV, maybe throw some money up there at him. I mean, obviously, he's got the name right now. His name's out there. Again, another congratulations to Brooks Koepka for winning the PGA Championship, beating out some big names, and playing at a very high level on the final day as well. Not choking in this one. Definitely not choking. So definitely cool to see that adjustment, to see him, you might have broke him, to see him come that far, come that close, and then give it away to John Rahm, and then that self-doubt creep back in, but no. He said he picked his brain, went and learned his lessons. I think it can be a lesson to a lot of athletes in terms of how your mental preparation and your mental status 110% has an effect on the level that you're going to play at. And he's now again competing for major championships and has his mental right to do so. Again, shout out to Brooks Koepka and Michael Block as well. Really, really cool to see him hitting that hole in one and playing as well as he did. And he showed some confidence throughout the week too. And playing with Roy, getting the hug from Roy. I mean, just shout out Roy for that too, man. Allowing that guy to have his moment, being happy for him, understanding the moment. Good on Roy McIlroy for that, for being able to, assist Michael Block in that moment. That hug, Michael Block didn't even know it went in. I thought that was really neat too, in terms of a pro, not just kind of just shrugging off as what it was, like being able to appreciate the moment for this guy and help him understand it, which I thought was really, really cool. We'll finish off with the Premier League with Man City clinching the title. I mean, Arsenal. Good Lord. What a historic collapse. This is going to be brief, because I'm not going to rip into Arsenal just yet. Probably separate some more time. I mean, again, everybody used to say that Liverpool gagged away titles, and we would still be getting 100 points. We'd still be getting in the high 90s. I mean, this Arsenal team just absolutely gagged it away. I mean, Man City very well still could finish above 90 points in the league. But the relegation battle is still going to be open. Top four, Newcastle yesterday. They clinched a Champions League spot. It comes down to whether United win their last two or not. Liverpool has to win the last game to get in, and then hope that United lose two. That's the only way. I don't see it happening because United's remaining schedule is not too stout by any means. Again, it's on Liverpool because of how much they struggled early on in the season. I'm content with fifth as a Liverpool fan, just because they have made a considered effort towards the end of the season. Of course, United have Chelsea and Fulham. Chelsea and Fulham, there's no way they lose both of those games. So Liverpool will be in fifth, and I think Klopp has even conceded that. A lot of people conceded that. Again, Liverpool have really played well as of late. They had an 8-game. I think we're unbeaten in 9 now. We've won 8 straight, or we've won 7 straight. We're unbeaten in 8. The draw with Villa hurts for sure. Again, just not, the depth hasn't been there. The inconsistency's been there. And I think United still, at the end of the day, deserves it more considering how well Ten Hag has had this season. I don't see it really damaging Liverpool too much, as given that they will, I think, bounce back with the transfer window. They have to put some spending in this offseason. If they don't, there's going to be some serious trouble and serious questions with the ownership. But I think it's been an exciting Premier League season. It's good to see some new teams up there in the top four. Newcastle, more specifically, Man City facing a lot of financial fair play charges too, which certainly might affect what happens with them, which is really, really crazy. That's something that'll be more in-depthly broken down in the future as well. But it would be an all-time historic collapse if Man United dropped out of it. It really would be. I don't see it happening. We'll see. Thursday when they take on Chelsea. If they lose that one and the pressure's on, I definitely. I mean, I guess anything can happen on the final day. So, you really got to pull for. Obviously the first one's got to start. So, all they have to do is get a point from 2 games. That's it. That's all they got to do against 2 bottom half teams. So that's where the Premier League stands. Arsenal with, again, they used to say Liverpool gagged away these leagues, and no. This is a true choke job by Arsenal with the advantages they had and the chances they had, and they just gave it to Man City. Just gave it away to Man City. Just bad. Just a bad gag from... I mean, it's nice to see Arteta kind of having Arsenal back to a level. The big four should be the big four. Newcastle sneaking in there, but I like it better when it's like the top would be City, United, Arsenal, and us, and Chelsea competing as well. But nice to see some different teams shuffled in there. But man, Arsenal with this historic choke job. We'll see how they respond in the coming seasons. They're gonna need a window to not only try and find that title success again, but to just maintain top four. I think they've another team that has really overachieved, and is gonna need some depth help in the coming year to really push and continue to hang in that Champions League spot and vie for European success as well as league success, which we really haven't seen sustained success of that from Arsenal since the Wenger era. So again, that's why I've been critical of Arsenal too, is because of how quickly they pushed him out of there. But Arteta finally has him at a level. Clearly, Man City having Pep, who really helped Mikel Arteta become the head coach of Arsenal, becoming the coach that he is. Obviously, still being the master, and Arteta still being the student. City winning yet another title. I mean, we're the only team to disrupt City from this incredible run that they've been on. But of course, they're facing a lot of those charges, which we'll see how those play out. That's really all I got time for today on the Rufus Rundown. Just some brief stuff there at the end of Premier League and some golf stuff. But appreciate everybody for tuning in. Again, if you like the video, please be sure to like and subscribe. And if you're on Spotify, follow me there. Follow on all my social medias at Rufus Rundown or at the Rufus Rundown. I think for everybody. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. I gotta get on Tumblr and Reddit and all that stuff too. I gotta start plugging all that stuff. But again, future's bright for the show. I think the month of May has just been kind of high and low for me, but trying to get back into groove. But Brockton Rocks Thursday night, 6:30. The 4th and 8th innings. I will be doing sideline reports for the Brockton Rocks. And Friday they have a game as well too. So you'll be seeing me every 4th and 8th inning for Brockton Rocks home games this summer. So be sure to tune in. And the Rufus and the Rocks podcast will be coming at you as well in the near future. So be on the lookout for that. Once again, everybody, thank you for tuning in. It's your boy Rufus.
We must pay homage to him.